Hi, so this is Hans. I'm just going to do a quick video on the final paper project. I don't think the materials were doing justice to what we're looking for. And so I'm just going to quickly go through what it is and what I'm looking for, and then hopefully that'll help and clarify some of the questions that are coming up. Okay, so we have three options. One is to create your own theory. The next is to write a sequel to the Ertmer and Newby paper. And the third option is to create a lesson or training on an ID theory, about the ID theory. So let's look at the first one. For option one, create your own theory. So this would be you look, and in the same way that we read about theories in Driscoll, you would take one of those, not necessarily a big, huge theory like behaviorism, but you might have a specific theory within behaviorism that you would add. So an example of this is connectivism. So you can find an overview of connectivism, and I've used this as an example before. This is a theory that was come up by a couple of Canadian guys, George Siemens and Stephen Downes, that talks about how technology and the internet specifically connects us in a way that makes it different and that we learn differently than we did before, that isn't explained by other theories. So this is just an overview. There is this link is actually the paper, and it's kind of a short paper that George Siemens wrote about connectivism, and this is published in a journal. So this is an example of what that might look like. You don't have to write it like this, but this is what creating one theory looks like. And if you want to look at different types of theories, there's a couple of links here of what different types of theories are to see if anyone else has already talked about that theory. Okay. So next, the sequel to the Ertmer and Newby article. This is basically, there are a few options here. One of the examples that I'll talk about is a comparison of two different theories. So you might compare constructivism and cognitivism. You might compare two smaller theories within one of these larger overall theories. You might also find gaps in the article or talk about things that have changed in learning theory or changed in the learning space since that was written in 2013 or since it was published in 2013. So this one's much more theoretical. It's much more of a thought piece than the other two. But even still, we'll need to include some application here. And then finally, creating a lesson or training on an ID theory. And a lot of people are choosing this option, so I'm going to go into it in a little more depth. First of all, this is for your teaching instructional designers. So you're training trainers or you're training instructional designers about an ID theory. You're not going to train your employees or you basically your ground level folks. This would be, you would be teaching someone like our class. You would be teaching trainers that are going to be developing training or teachers that are going to be developing training, things like that. The next thing is you will be teaching a learning theory. So I'm going to be teaching motivation. I'm going to be teaching behaviorism. I'm going to be teaching how to use fading. I'm going to be teaching how to use cognitive strategies to improve my multimedia development, things like that. So the next one is it's going to be a lesson plan. So it'll actually be a lesson plan that you would might hand off to like a substitute teacher. So clear enough and laid out enough that it's just like any good lesson plan. So things that are a good lesson plan are going to be objectives. You're going to have assessments that match those objectives. You're going to have a description of the participants. Who are they? How many are there? What's their background? What setting is it? What's time? How long is it going to take? What's the order of activities? Things like that. And then you're going to have any training materials. So if you're going to be showing a PowerPoint, if you're going to have handouts for the students, you need to create those and include those as part of the training. And then finally, any background information. So if you, for example, if you've ever seen a lesson plan, you might have the materials, but then part of the plan is here's what you're going to be doing. So when you get to the application piece, you may say, here's the application, and what's following will be a lesson plan. And then you basically put the lesson plan inside of the paper. That will be part of the paper. So here's some more details. First of all, like I said, mention it's for instructional designers. 6 to 10 pages. You don't have to do 10 pages. Don't worry about getting that high. Really just look at the rubric, and if you cover all the things in the rubric, then you're fine. But I wouldn't want to see less than 6 pages with the kind of depth that I'm looking for. APA, use APA. You might want to use something like Zotero. It's a free tool that I used. I don't want you to spend 3 hours teaching yourself how to use Zotero, but I also don't want you to spend 3 hours looking at commas and quote marks. So I put in a link here to Zotero. You can just do a search in YouTube or in Google and find more. But Again, I'm not going to be able to support this, but if you want to use something like this, it will be helpful for you not just in this paper, but down the line when you write other research papers, this will be a very helpful tool. All right, I'm looking for 7 or more solid references. You can include a textbook like our Driscoll or other textbooks, and maybe a blog post for 1 or 2 to kind of give an overview of a theory or an idea. But really, a lot of them should be peer reviewed. So if you're going to do like show effectiveness or do proof or talk about a theory specifically, you're going to want to use a peer reviewed article. Here are some links to Purdue resources that talk about peer reviewed articles, talk about how to find them in the library. So here's the structure. So first you're going to have an introduction. You're going to identify the subject matter or the problem that's going to be investigated and explain the purpose of it. That's going to be a page or so, a paragraph, a page, not more than that. The next is the review of the literature, and you're going to describe your subject matter. You're going to talk about how this has come along. You're going to kind of give a short history of it. The kind of a literature review is a history of the idea and how it changed and was modified. With option 2, this is critical. With option 3, this should only be a paragraph, and that's reflected in the amount of points. And then finally, the application. With option 3 and 1, this is huge, especially with 3. This is going to be your lesson plan itself. With lesson plan with 1 or 2, the application is going to be important as well, but with the new theory, the application will be less important. So this is kind of the structure: introduction, review of literature, and application. You can even make those headings if you want within the paper. So here are some examples of different types of papers that you could do. So relevance. How is relevance important? How does it fit within instruction? Cognitive apprenticeship, skipping down to the bottom. A theory comparison. Here's one theory, here's another theory. So that would be like option 1. Relevance would kind of be option 1, or you could do instruction on relevance. I'm sorry, theory comparison is option 2. E-learning. Are you going to create a new theory about it? Is there a practical side of that you want to talk about? Finally, here's the evaluation guidelines. This is where the rubber meets the road. This is the most important thing. So if you have 6 pages and all of this is covered, then you're fine. If you have more than 10 pages and this isn't covered, then you're in trouble because you had more than 10 pages, but also because you didn't cover this information. So here's the introduction. One thing to notice: literature review and application and synthesis. With option 3, this is 25 points. With option 1 and 2, it's only 15. With option 3, this is only 5 points, and with option 1 and 2, it's 15. So 1 and 2 are a little more balanced between both. Really, with option 3, we're looking for a short intro and review, and then the whole lesson plan, literally the lesson plan. Lesson plan, not listen plan. And then the writing and the style. Make sure you get APA right. Make sure this is just a paper, right? So it has to be structured in a concise way. Start with an outline and then fill it out. Does it have 7 to 10 references? Most of those I want to be peer reviewed. So hopefully that helps clarify things a little bit. If you still have questions, let me know, and we'll try and get through them. I'll be trying to check email about every 24 hours, but I may not be getting back to you as quick as you'll like. I apologize for that, but I'll be doing the best I can. Thanks.